Namaste, welcome to another episode of Accent Academy. I am your accent guru, Ria Deshpande, and today we are going to be talking about the letter P. So this letter is actually way easier than the other letters we've come across. The letter A, for example, is way harder because it changes and it's non-phonetic. However, the letter P often follows its standard rules, and it also has a special rule, which we'll get into towards the end of the video. But yes, it does follow rules, so it's very nice, and it's a law-abiding citizen of the phonetic language. This video is actually going to show you a tip to talking and communicating with Americans that will make you sound more professional and also make you sound more likable. So you definitely want to see this video if you're going into business or you're planning on moving to the United States. So now we're going to jump right into the pronunciation part. Please pronounce this word on the screen. How did you pronounce it? In my experience, I often hear people pronounce this word as party. Now, if you are not pronouncing that A, that R, or that T quite right in a way that's quite American, don't worry about it. Those will be covered in separate videos, so you can go check those out. So going back to this word, what is it that makes the P sound in party so Indian? Let's push that aside. Now, most Indian dialects often have what I call a very bold approach. Most languages, including Hindi and Marathi, which I'm familiar with, are very strong. I'd say that the tone in Marathi especially is very commanding and it's very strong. You may have noticed that in the R sound, we're always trying to tone things down. So once again, we're going to tone this down for those Americans that are scared of our boldness. Now I see a lot of Indians form this letter with your top lip curled in, and while this does work for other letters, like the letter B, there's a very important difference between the letter B and the letter P that we need to account for. The letter B actually has a percussive nature to it. And what I mean by that is that you're actually making a sound from your voice box. You're going b, 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 b. But when you're making the P sound, it's mostly air. P, 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 p. Think of the P as like a whisper. Shh, come on, we've got to go. But like the B as like a big, loud bus. Mer, mer, mer. You kind of want to think that the B is super bold. So when you're forming the P sound, as I said earlier, it is mostly air. Now, I don't want you to go P, because that's totally unnecessary. Again, in language, moderation is always key. So you'd want to go more of like a P, P. Use the air that you already have in your chest and in your mouth to make that soft P. Once again, you need to remember that it's the lip that's touching. You don't want your tooth to touch your bottom lip, like F, F, as that is a completely different sound, and that's reserved for the letter F. Just remember, it's do you want to go to a party, not do you want to go to a farty. I also want to mention that if the P is accompanied with an H, that is the only time you will make the F sound, as in you would make for an F. So, if you wanted to say, you'd say phone. I think it's really, really important that you do remember that that does not mean you make an extra airy P or anything like that. You don't say phone. No, you'd say phone. So I know it doesn't make sense, but this rule is always applied, so you don't need to worry about it much. 3 words that will help you remember the differences between the formations are pig, big, and fig. When you keep these 3 words in mind, you should be able to remember that all 3 of them have different pronunciations. I'm so sorry, I've been talking to you for so long. Up next, I'm going to play a snippet of Ariana Grande's song Positions so that we can get a feel for that P and that B. Huh, what a coincidence. As always, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Accent Academy, the letter P. In the description below will be some words that you can practice on your own time, as well as timestamps to let you know all of the parts of this video, and especially that really important tip so that you can skip to it whenever you need to. Thank you so much for joining this episode. I am your accent guru, Ria Deshpande, and I will see you next week.